Adam, what are some first homebuyer tips?
So first and foremost, for any first-time home buyer that's out there thinking about buying a house, you need to get pre-approved. Getting pre-approved is a very easy, free thing where you reach out to a loan officer at a bank or a mortgage company and sit down with that individual and provide some financial information to them, like your credit, your tax stubs, your pay, your debt to income, to determine what you can afford. Or in other words, what the bank is willing to loan you. It's pointless to start looking at properties before you know what you can reasonably afford. That's the critical piece. Anytime I start with a new client, that's the first question I ask. The other thing that is really important with respect to that is your credit. You need to have good credit in order to purchase a home. And by good credit, I mean, right now, at very minimum, you need to have around 650 credit to be able to qualify for a loan. And that is then on top of, again, what you make and everything else. That's the very first step in this process. A pre-approval is slightly different from a pre-qualification. You're getting basically a pre-qualification letter. And it's basically, it's not giving you a specific dollar amount, is giving you a range. You're qualified up to X amount. Usually those are good for anywhere from 60 to 90 days. And that gives you a basic foundation of how you can begin your search. So that's the first step. The second step is we are in a very, very heavy seller's market right now, meaning there's very little inventory out there and there's a lot of buyers. And so buyers need to be ready, both physically and psychologically, to pounce on a house when they see something they like. Unfortunately, they don't have the luxury of talking it out for a week, because usually these homes are up and snapped up and gone within a matter of days. So it's critical that if you see something in your gut, if you like it, if you respond to it, if you want to make an offer, you do so. That's very important. Some out-of-pocket expenses. So in Massachusetts here, within the first usually 10 days, buyer is going to be paying a couple of out-of-pocket expenses. The first and foremost is there's going to be a 5% of the purchase price of the home is paid for by the buyer within that first 10-day period. Usually there's $1,000 deposit with the offer. Once the offer is accepted, you have a 7-day window to do due diligence, like a home inspection. Your realtor will be able to provide you with some home inspectors for you to call and hire. That's the second out-of-pocket expense. You're going to be paying anywhere from probably $400 to $900 or $1,000, $400 to $900 to $1,000 on a home inspection based on the type of property and the size. And then once we're through the home inspection, we have what's called the purchase and sale agreement. And that at that point, the 5% minus the $1,000 that you've already submitted with the offer. If after the home inspection, you decide you don't want to move forward with the property, you get that $1,000 deposit back. But those are very important things to keep in mind. So you'll need to have at least, at minimum, the 5% of the purchase price in liquid money in your cash within those first 10 days. You also will have to pay a appraisal fee. So unless you're, again, paying cold hard cash for your house, you're going to be financing it. Part of that process is to have the bank hire an independent appraiser to do their own appraisal of the property. And that usually costs $400 to $500, and that is paid by you, the buyer, as well. So those are a couple of out-of-pocket expenses. Those are the standard ones. Of course, there are some others depending on the type of property. You might need to bring in a structural engineer or, another type of professional, a pest inspector. There might be some other types of expenses like that, but those are the four standard ones: your offer, your home inspection, your purchase and sale deposit, and then your appraisal.
Another tip, hiring a buyer's agent. What would you recommend for that?
Yeah, so that's an absolutely critical tip. So if you're a home buyer, you absolutely want to hire a buyer's agent to help you with this process. If you were to ever get into an accident or have legal problems, you would hire your own attorney. It's the same concept. You want to hire a buyer's agent to represent you and your interests in the transaction. If you go to an open house and you're not working with an agent and you love the open house and you want to make an offer, and you go up to the agent at the open house, say, I want to make an offer, that agent is going to say, great. They're representing the seller. So they're not going to care about your interests or what you're looking for. That's not their responsibility. So you want to make sure that you interview and that you hire an agent that is going to look out for your interests, that you feel comfortable with, Everyone is different, and I encourage you to talk to different agents. You will not have to pay anything out of pocket to hire a buyer's agent. A buyer's agent gets paid at the closing by the listing agency. So you don't ever have to pay out of pocket for that. There's three primary things that a buyer's agent does. The first is helping their client find a home. Pretty easy. They're going to sit down with their client. They're going to put together a search profile. What are you looking for? What are your needs? What are your goals? When do you need to be in a home buy? And they will help identify homes through the traditional channels like the MLS and other online top agent network, other online resources. But then a good buyer's agent will also be proactive and do grassroots marketing. Maybe it's a door knocking campaign or a letter writing. Oftentimes when I have a client, if they don't get an offer accepted on a street that they might want to be on, I'll literally knock on the doors of the neighbors. Say, hey, my client unfortunately just lost out on a deal at your neighbor's house. Would you be interested in selling if you had the right price? So you want to be a proactive buyer's agent. That's what you want to be looking for. So that's the first thing. The second thing is once you find a home, the second thing is to help craft an offer that's going to hopefully get accepted. So you're going to sit down with your buyer's agent. You're going to look at sales comps. You're going to discuss strategy on what is the best way I can get this house and my offer accepted. Right now, of course, it's very, very challenging. I submitted an offer for clients over the weekend that there were 17 other offers on the property. And the property sold for well over $100,000 over the asking price.
Wow.
You want to make sure you're working with an agent who's going to try to come up with creative ways to get an offer accepted for you on your behalf. And then the third and final piece is once the offer is accepted, making sure all of the dates are met, all of the people who are talking to one another need to be talking. For example, the lawyers, the mortgage people, the inspectors, the buyers and the sellers if they need to be speaking. So it's really quarterbacking the transaction and making sure that it's a smooth transaction so there's no stress on the shoulders of the buyer all the way through the closing table. Next tip I would say is have a general idea of where you want to be. Oftentimes clients will come in and they'll say, well, I have a list of about 8 to 10 towns I'm interested in. Well, what we want to try to do is get that list culled to about 2 or 3 towns. Obviously, if you're new to a community or you're relocating, it might be a little different, but we really ask our buyers to, hey, do your own due diligence here, go out to these communities, maybe go to a restaurant or go to a bar or explore the downtown, explore, if you have kids, the schools, to really get a sense of what neighborhoods and what communities you like. Then come back and with a much more manageable list. At that point, we can really start looking at houses. So that's very important. And then the final piece, which I think is so critical, is setting expectations. Be clear and concise. If the buyer has a timeline that they need to be in the house, you need to let that agent know that by. And subsequent, from the agent's perspective, it's, hey, explaining what's going on right now in the market, what you're going to need to do, how much money you're really going to need to be able to put down in order to intend to purchase a home. Find someone who is transparent, who can explain the process clearly, you feel comfortable with, and can help you find a great house.
Those are all great tips. Super, super helpful. Thank you, Adam. You're the
My
best.
pleasure as always. Hey guys, if you're liking this content and are eager to hear more, I would encourage you to keep on watching. Click on the button to subscribe, and you will be the first to get new, fresh content as soon as I put it on the internet.